Join our community by subscribing. Every click helps us share more stories like this one. The introduction. In the quiet town of Brookhaven, nestled between rolling hills and thick woods, life unfolded at a measured pace. Children played in the streets after school, their laughter mingling with the distant hum of lawnmowers and chirping birds. Neighbors knew each other by name, and secrets were seldom kept for long. Yet, beneath this serene facade, an unsettling truth lingered like a heavy mist, ready to engulf the unsuspecting. On a dull, overcast morning in early March, as the last traces of winter reluctantly faded, the peace of Brookhaven was fractured. The body of 23-year-old Sarah Mitchell was discovered by a pair of mushroom hunters deep within the forested area just outside town. Armed only with a wicker basket and a sense of adventure, the pair stumbled upon the scene that would forever alter the town's landscape. Lush ferns and damp earth surrounded an unmistakable outline in the foliage. The vibrant sounds of nature were replaced by a chilling silence. Authorities swiftly cordoned off the area, the rustle of plastic crime scene tape echoing in the stillness. A dark cloud settled over Brookhaven. The laughter of children faded away, swiftly replaced by whispers of dread and speculation. Who would harm Sarah? What unspeakable act could rattle such a peaceful community? As police began their investigation, the eyes of Brookhaven turned inward, searching for answers in the shadows of their own lives. The victim. Sarah Mitchell was known for her radiant smile and infectious laughter that could light up even the gloomiest of days. A recent graduate of Brookhaven High School, she had aspirations of becoming a teacher, her passion ignited by the inspiring educators she had encountered in her formative years. Sarah worked at the local library, a cozy nook perched on the edge of Main Street, where the scent of aged paper mingled with wood polish. Her days were spent shelving books, hosting story hours for children, and lending her support to the local book club that had become a second home. Friends remembered her as fiercely loyal, always eager to lend a listening ear. She had a knack for making people feel seen and understood, often bringing baked goods to their doorsteps, complete with handwritten notes. Sarah had a close-knit circle, and her absence would soon send shockwaves rippling through the lives she touched. As her family faced the reality of having to plan a memorial service, frantic questions echoed in the back of their minds. What kind of monster would prey on such a gentle soul? Just days before that dreary morning, Sarah had attended a friend's birthday party, her laughter ringing out in a harmony that several attendees would remember fondly. They remembered her dancing, her eyes twinkling with excitement, blissfully unaware of the impending darkness that loomed on the horizon. The loss felt unfathomable, and those who loved her struggled to comprehend how their world had shattered in an instant. The crime scene. The atmosphere crackled with tension as Detective Mark Reynolds arrived at the crime scene. The soft crunch of leaves beneath his feet, competing with the distant call of crows overhead, cordoned off perimeter to find the area where Sarah Mitchell's life had so violently ended, encircled by yellow tape fluttering in the chill of the morning. Reynolds took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges that lay ahead. Beneath the canopy of twisted branches, investigators moved purposefully, their figures stark against the muted browns and greens of the forest floor. The boundaries of the scene had been meticulously established, down to the last detail. As Reynolds leaned over the outline, marked by a crime scene tape, he observed the small clearing in stark juxtaposition to the vibrant life around it. Fallen leaves clung stubbornly to the ground, while scattered wildflowers painted a grotesque contrast to the grim reality at hand. Local officers combed the vicinity, their flashlights cutting through the lingering fog. They recorded each detail. The position of Sarah's body, the growth of underbrush encroaching in, and the subtle disturbance of soil indicating recent movement. Every piece of evidence would become a breadcrumb, leading them closer to the truth. Reynolds noted the absence of personal belongings nearby. Her bag, her shoes, where could they be? The enormity of the situation weighed heavily on him. The knowledge that Brookhaven would never again feel the same under the pall of this tragedy. As he surveyed the scene, a chill rippled down his spine, a nagging thought that someone among them, perhaps a neighbor, had hidden a dark secret no one could possibly foresee. The early investigation, the following days in Brookhaven, blurred together as the shock of Sarah's death settled into a grim reality. Detective Reynolds assembled a team of officers to lead the early stages of the investigation. They scoured the town for anyone who might have seen or heard something that could point to Sarah's last moments. Each life touched by her departed spirit carried a weight of responsibility. They needed answers. The Green Willow Cafe, a local gathering spot, became a focus point for the investigation. Its rustic charm, red-checked tablecloths, and the aroma of brewed coffee created an inviting atmosphere. Reynolds and his team interviewed patrons who might have seen Sarah in the days leading up to her disappearance. Some recalled her laughter ringing through the cafe. Others shared snippets of conversations they had with her. But no one could paint a clear picture of her last known interaction. They also reached out to those closest to her. Family and friends were lined up for interviews in a private room at the cafe. Every sentiment shared felt heavy with the shadow of grief. Sarah's best friend, Emily, recounted the last time she spoke with Sarah, a fleeting conversation filled with plans for a weekend hike. That conversation now felt haunting, tainted with a sense of finality. Meanwhile, as officers checked local surveillance footage, a few intriguing leads emerged. A dark-colored van was spotted near the woods around the time of Sarah's disappearance. Attention turned to finding any owner who might have been unwittingly caught in the web of darkness. The community was roused from its stunned silence, compelled to prioritize a shared responsibility protecting each other and uncovering the truth of what happened that fateful day. The dead ends. As the investigation deepened, the glow of hope that initially surrounded the search for answers began to wane. Detective Reynolds and his team pored over endless leads, but each promising thread seemed to vanish without a trace, leaving only frustration in its wake. Hours stretched into days, each ticking clock feeling like a reminder of the urgency that eluded them. The dark-colored van had become a faint flicker. Investigators managed to identify the vehicle as belonging to a local contractor who had an alibi for the time of Sarah's disappearance. He had been on a job on the opposite side of town, and the trail grew cold. Witnesses described seeing Sarah walking home alone from the cafe in the late evening, but none offered anything concrete to help pin down where she might have gone afterward. Reynolds felt the weight of the town's expectations pressing on his shoulders. Weekly meetings with the police chief led to stark discussions. The community's trust was on the line, and the murmurs of discontent began to rise. Families shared worried glances, exchanging whispers in grocery store aisles. each one grappling with their own fears as days turned into weeks. As Reynolds and his team continued to search for clues, he found himself wrestling with doubt. He revisited Sarah's social media profiles, combing through posts for any indication of trouble. Yet, posed photos of summer vacations and cheerful happenings offered no hint of the darkness that had crept into her life. It was as if Sarah had been snuffed out, leaving only a lingering, unanswered question. Who would want to hurt her? With tips dwindling and the fear of the unknown rising, Reynolds knew they needed a breakthrough, something, anything, to pull them away from the precipice of despair that loomed over Brookhaven. A break in the case. Weeks passed since Sarah's body was found, and the investigation that once brimmed with potential began to dwindle into exhaustion. Just when hope seemed to be slipping through the cracks, a chance encounter shifted the tide. Detective Reynolds received a tip from a local shopkeeper named Mrs. Jenkins, who recalled seeing a scruffy man loitering around the woods in the days leading up to Sarah's disappearance. Mrs. Jenkins was a fixture in Brookhaven, known for her keen eye and almost encyclopedic knowledge of the townsfolk and visitors. As she recalled the man's disheveled appearance, something intrinsic sparked an interest in Reynolds. She described him as having unkempt hair, a weathered jacket, and an unsettling presence that had left her disturbed. He had this look, she said, her voice trembling slightly, like he was watching everyone, but not really seeing any. Equipped with this new lead, Reynolds dispatched a team to canvass the area again. They learned that a nearby transient had been spotted lingering around late at night, often observed rummaging through dumpsters behind the local shop. Delving deeper, officers found reports of petty thefts in the vicinity. The man had a history with the law, which piqued Reynolds' interest, and a search of his last known whereabouts yielded a small trail to follow. Finally, security footage from a gas station just minutes away captured him a fleeting glimpse of someone reminiscent of Mrs. Jenkins' description, walking away from a store before the time of Sarah's disappearance. Armed with this new evidence, the pieces of the puzzle began to shift. It wasn't enough yet to bring him in, but it felt like the breakthrough the team had awaited. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an orange glow over Brookhaven, there was renewed determination within the investigation team. They were closer to understanding what had happened. And suddenly, the fog of uncertainty. The suspect. As the investigation honed in on the transient known as David Kane, Detective Reynolds began to peel back the layers of the man's life. Kane's file revealed a troubled past, marked by bouts of homelessness and a history of minor offenses that danced along the line of petty crime. His chaotic existence painted a bleak picture owned too close to the tipping point, where desperation could lead to dangerous decisions. To delve deeper into Kane's habits and movements, officers canvassed the locations he frequented, speaking to shop owners and locals who might have crossed paths with him. They learned that he often sought shelter beneath the overpass, just beyond the forested area, mere stone's throw from where Sarah's body had been discovered. It wasn't long before our officers began to circulate his photograph around the community, hoping someone might recognize him and provide further insight. As the days unfolded, a chilling detail emerged. Multiple reports started to surface. Several women had encountered Kane in the weeks leading up to Sarah's disappearance. Their accounts described a man who watched them intensely, his presence disconcerting yet fleeting. He loomed at a distance, sending waves of discomfort through the women who spotted him, yet no one had felt compelled to go to the police prior to Sarah's death. After days of deliberation and mounting evidence, Reynolds decided it was time to move. He secured a warrant and led a team to the underpass, where they found Kenna disoriented and disheveled, with wild eyes that darted nervously. As they approached, he stammered out incoherent protests and evasive answers. The confrontation unfolded just as Reynolds hoped it would, with officers working diligently to squeeze out any information. Kane's faltering responses fueled suspicion. He spoke about being in the area around the time Sarah went missing, but offered scant details that did little to absolve him. As Reynolds stood over him, a sense of purpose solidified in his gut. They were no longer following the shadows. They were no longer following the shadow. They had to suspect a step closer to justice for Sarah. The trial. Months passed as the courtroom of Brookhaven transformed into a theater of grief and calculated tension. The trial of David Kane was the focal point around which the town's collective anxiety revolved. News vans sprawled across the street, capturing every step of the proceedings as communities braced themselves for closure. Families gathered, their faces etched with sorrow, seeking justice for the vibrant light that had been extinguished far too soon. As the trial commenced, the atmosphere was charged with palpable emotion. Prosecution laid out its case methodically, drawing on forensic evidence that linked Kane to the crime scene's DNA, discovered in unexpected places around Sarah's final resting spot. Each detail they presented painted a disturbing picture of a man whose life had spiraled and culminated in a tragic act of violence. Witnesses offered harrowing accounts of Kane's unsettling presence in town, echoing fears that had permeated the community long before the crime occurred. Kane's defense raised questions about his state of mind. His attorney argued that he suffered from mental health issues and had been homeless for years. They painted him as a victim of circumstance, a troubled man who drifted through life with no clear anchor. Yet, as the evidence piled up, the community's collective anger simmered just beneath the surface. Emotions ran high as Sarah's family took the stand, their tear-filled eyes weaving a narrative of loss that shredded the courtroom's placid atmosphere. They spoke of vibrant milestones, her graduation, her dreams of teaching. Their words crystallized Sarah's identity, reminding everyone that she was more than just a statistic. She was a beloved daughter, a sister, a friend. As the trial approached its conclusion, tension twisted into an unbearable knot. Audiences leaned forward for each testimony, each statement a thread of connection binding them to the victim. In their hearts, they all carried a piece of Sarah, seeking not just justice, but a way to resurrect the light she had brought into their lives. With the jury poised to deliberate, the weight of their decision loomed. Like a specter in the room, all eyes turned toward the future, hopeful for an outcome that would finally allow a shattered community to begin healing. The aftermath. When the verdict was finally delivered, it echoed through the court as a long-awaited sigh of acknowledgement. The courtroom fell silent as the jury declared David Kane guilty of murder in the first degree. A mix of relief, outrage, and sorrow radiated from Sarah's family, each feeling the weight of the verdict differently. For some, it was a measure of justice. For others, it simply reinforced the chasm left by her absence. As news spread through Brookhaven, a palpable shift rippled through the community. The constant hum of anxiety began to quiet, yet the scars from the tragedy remained deeply etched in the minds and hearts of its residents. A memorial was erected in the park where Sarah used to play as a child. The bronze plaque engraved with her name stood as an everlasting tribute. Neighbors would often pause to leave flowers or light candles, creating a sanctuary that became a symbol of resilience amidst loss. But healing was not instantaneous. Friendships strained under the weight of unspoken fears, and questions lingered: how could something so heinous occur in their oasis? Support groups sprang up in the aftermath. Parents now carried the burden of shielding their children from a darkness that had shattered their sense of safety. The community had to wrestle with the fact that sometimes danger lurked closer than anyone wanted to believe. Detective Reynolds watched from a distance, feeling the mixed emotions crashing within him like waves. Sorrow for Sarah's family mingled with pride for the resolve shown by the community in their quest for justice. Though he hoped the guilty verdict would provide closure, he understood that it was merely a stepping stone toward collective healing. As he glanced at the memorial adorned with flowers, candles, and hastily written notes, he realized the truth. Justice could never truly replace a life lost, but it could perhaps offer a flicker of peace in the memory of the radiant young woman. The radiant young woman. They were mourning. Brookhaven had changed forever, but in the wake of heartbreak, the town slowly began to rebuild, one step at a time. Reflection. In the aftermath of the trial, Brookhaven became a living testament to the fragile nature of safety and the endurance of community. The sound of laughter slowly returned to the streets, yet it was underscored with an awareness that had never existed before. Parents walked hand in hand with their children, looking over their shoulders as if shadows might still hold the remnants of fear. As the seasons shifted, Detective Reynolds found himself visiting Sarah's memorial regularly. Each time, he brought a small tokina flower, a handwritten note offering his own form of remembrance. He wanted her essence to linger in the hearts of the community, for them to remember not just the tragedy, but the warmth she shared with everyone. At nights, when stillness wrapped around Brookhaven, he reflected on the tangled web of choices, looking for answers within himself. Could he have done anything differently? Could he have intervened sooner? Yet, he knew the haunting truth. There were no easy answers in the realm of human experience, where darkness and light often walked hand in hand. Despite the pain etched into the town's fabric, hope flickered like the candles at the memorial. Brookhaven was learning to cope with the loss, while striving to cultivate a sense of safety. In every smile exchanged, in every child playing freely in the park, Sarah's spirit lingered, an ethereal reminder of the love that perseveres even in the face of unimaginable grief.